love every season of the year. I think each of them has their own unique flavour, their own unique pros and cons. And autumn is absolutely, up there with one of my favourites. I know lots of us love this time of year, some of us don't, and I completely get that. Personally, I don't know if there is a season I particularly dislike more than another. I think each of them has their own plus sides and downsides. But right now, the air feels crisper, the days are getting shorter, which is for me is a con, but there is this natural pull to slow down, to hunker down, and to kind of get cozy, light the fires, pull on the blankets, get the knits on. Admittedly, the knits are off by about 1 p.m. and back on again by 4, but I digress. Sometimes life keeps us rushing and we miss out on the beauty of the seasons as they pass. And in today's video, I want to share some really simple ways that you can slow down this autumn. You can enjoy the small moments and feel more connected to the season and to nature. Hello everybody and welcome back to Natural Living, or hello if you are new here. This is the cozy corner of YouTube where we explore seasonal living, herbalism, crystals and all things slow and intentional. So if you love connecting with nature or you want to connect with it more and you want to create a more peaceful life, then please make sure to hit subscribe and like this video. I would love to have you here. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So one of the first ways that you can slow down this season is to embrace some seasonal rituals. It could be something as small as lighting a candle in the evening, or starting your morning a little bit earlier with maybe a cup of tea or a hot chocolate if you want to be particularly indulgent. Starting the day without any distractions, and let this habit become something that you look forward to every single day. Autumnal rituals also connect us to the rhythm of nature. A short walk in the morning, noticing how the leaves are turning or how the air smells a little bit different. It's a beautiful reminder that everything in nature moves at its own steady pace. These small pauses really anchor us in the season and help us to appreciate it and notice it. There are so many times in life where we're just rushing through, trying to get things done, trying to achieve the next thing, the next goal. Sometimes it is so important to just stop and just pause. And I know that that's so hard in this day and age, but that's why it is so important to do so. Without this kind of time to reflect and think, we become frazzled, we become overstimulated, everything just becomes too loud and too abrasive. And for me, this time of year really reflects just slowing down and just noticing the changes in nature, noticing how it releases things that it no longer needs, noticing that nature, she is showing us that it's okay to let things go, it's okay to let go of things and just let things fade away, and for us to just hibernate, to take that time back for ourselves. And one of the ways that I really like to do this is to cook with the season. Food is one of my favourite things. It always has been and it always will be. But it is such a grounding experience to be able to cook for people and to cook for yourself, Cooking for yourself, feeding yourself really nutritious, healthy food is, to me, in my opinion, it's the ultimate act of self-love. And it's the ultimate act of love when you cook for other people. It's a really grounding way to just help us slow down. Autumn brings so much abundance. It is the harvest season. We have pumpkins, squashes, all these beautiful fruit, vegetables, apples, pears, stairs. We have, the blackberries, slowberries, rose hips, all in the hedgerows. Cooking with what in season not only supports, local farmers, local growers, but it also encourages us to take our time in the kitchen. I don't know about you, but when it's the summer, I'm too hot to eat a lot of food. I tend to just eat salads. And obviously, you have your barbecues outside. Who doesn't love a barbecue? I think most Brits do. But there is something much more calm and intentional about returning back to the kitchen, back to the stove, baking, making soups, making stews, making really wholesome, normally quite heavy, stodgy comfort food. But is that not the best kind of food? Especially when things get chillier and when the evenings start to draw in. The next thing that I like to do around this time of year is to create a cozy nook or a journaling space or a reading corner. Somewhere where you can tuck yourself away and do your hobbies and do your crafts and your reading. As the evenings draw in and as we come home from work, we want to feel cozy. So creating a little space for us to do this is so lovely. Even if it's just maybe putting a new blanket on your favorite corner of the sofa and having a cup of tea there. It doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need to spend loads of money. Perhaps you could pull out an old candle that you haven't burnt all summer because it's been too warm and put it next to a small stack of your books, or your favorite journal if you just want to jot down a few thoughts. Or for me personally, I've really started to get into embroidery. So like, the embroidery hoops, I love doing those. I find it brings such a sense of calm for me. I've also started to get into puzzling as well. I have never done puzzling before in my life, but sitting at the dinner table with my puzzle and a cup of tea has just been such a really calming experience. Next up is foraging or decorating. Everybody loves to decorate for autumn. I've seen hundreds of decorate with me for autumn videos on YouTube. There is an abundance of content out there, but sometimes it can be a little bit too much. It's a lot of hauls, a lot of buying of new things, of plastic, of things that won't biodegrade very easily. And I think foraging can be, we've kind of overcomplicated things. Take it back to going out for a walk and just picking up beautiful things you see. Pick up some pine cones, some acorns. We've just had a massive storm here in the UK. There are so many beautiful gnarled branches that are just cast on the floor. Pick them up and arrange them in a vase or a bowl on your table. These natural touches don't cost anything, but they instantly make a space feel way more seasonal and intentional. And because they're natural, they're not clutter, because eventually when you're finished with them, you just put them in your compost heap or you mulch your garden with them, and eventually they return to the earth. It's all cyclical. And that in itself feels really aligned with this kind of slow, simple living that we're all trying to achieve on this channel. One thing that I feel particularly strong about is limiting digital noise. We have such busy lives and so much of our attention gets pulled into screens, scrolling endlessly, refreshing or consuming content without really noticing what we're doing. Autumn is such a lovely time to just take a step back from that kind of overconsumption, that gluttony of digital feed of content. The darker evenings encourage us to slow down naturally, and I urge you to swap digital time sat on your phone for things like reading, maybe sewing, knitting, crocheting, puzzling, build some Lego, do something that is physical, that is tangible, that you can feel and touch. And at the end of it, when you've finished, you can feel proud of. It doesn't have to be perfect. It could be writing a letter to your mum. It could be making some Christmas cards. There are all sorts of things you can do that are tangible, that are physical, that move us away from the digital content that is kind of in the ether when it's on the internet. It's not physical, but when you create something with your own hands at the end of the day, it's such a beautiful thing that you can treasure and you can gift and you can keep. Also the season where our bodies start to crave rest. So, the colder weather comes in, the days do get shorter quite noticeably. At the end of October, the clocks will go back in the UK, and busier schedules can take their toll because we feel like our days are so much shorter. We have to cram everything into the daylight hours. And that's where self-care comes in, because it's so important that we don't let go of that. It doesn't have to be elaborate. In fact, the simpler the better is often the case with these kind of things. Something like running yourself a warm bath or a hot shower with a few drops of essential oils. You can make yourself a calming herbal tea to curl up in the bath with, or wrap yourself in a blanket with a hot chocolate and read before bed. Even just taking 10 minutes to stretch first thing in the morning, to jot a few thoughts down in a journal, or to breathe deeply in the cold, fresh, crisp air first thing in the morning can really help you to set the precedent for the day and to reset yourself. And when we slow down enough to notice what our body needs, we naturally move in a gentler rhythm. Last tip for slowing down this season are being a bit more mindful with your evenings. The way we spend the end of our day really sets the tone for how we rest when we sleep. So rather than staying up late under harsh lighting or on screens, I know we all do it, but think about making your evenings a bit more mindful, even if it's just switching to softer lighting, fairy lights, lamps or candles. Turn off the big light, put on the side lamps. Put on some calming music. I really love, you go on YouTube and you have those kind of ambiance videos where they just kind of have like an animated background and they just play really calming music for like hours. I love putting that on in the evening, just kind of on in the background as I kind of do my evening routine, get ready for bed, chill out, maybe read and just have that on in the background. I find it so calming. I really, really enjoy that. If you live someone, spend some time with them in the evenings, have a chat. Maybe you can make an agreement where you try to eat dinner together every evening, or at least a few times a week. It doesn't need to be complicated, but kind of having that human interaction can be really beneficial for you. I love ending the day reading a book. I love reading, and reading really helps calm my mind before bed. Or, maybe you could just sit there in bed and just think about the things you were grateful for that you experienced that day. It could be tiny things like the fact that you were able to walk the dog on your lunch break, or that you had a really good coffee today, or that you had a lovely chat with a friend. There are lots of things that you can be grateful for, and I think just finishing the day off on a high, on a positive note, will really help us get through those darker evenings if that's something you struggle with. So those are some of my favourite simple ways to slow down this autumn. I think this season is such a gift, and aside from the massive overconsumption of buying plastic pumpkins and all that kind of thing, it's nature's way of showing us that it's okay to rest, it's okay to slow down and to enjoy the smaller moments that we have. I'd love to know how you like to embrace a slower season and what you do to celebrate autumn, if there is anything in particular. Do you have an evening ritual? Do you have a tradition or something you're looking forward to cooking? Please share all of these thoughts down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me today. If you enjoyed this video, you may like some of the other content that I have put out there, things on herbalism, slow living, getting in tune with nature and crystals. So I will leave some video suggestions linked down below for you. And that is it from me for today. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day. Stay happy and blessed be.